Good evening. I'm Allie Brammer. This is Christy and Shane Brammer, and Gina and Randy Stahl. Let's get started. What kind of learning environment do we want for our students? Do we want them to be prepared to take a test or prepared for life, for their next chapter? In school, we take a thing called MAP testing, which is a standardized test. I believe that MAP testing does not show students' true abilities and their true intelligence, and I believe that it harms their learning experience and deteriorates their motivation to even want to go to school or take these tests. And I think there's better ways that we can show their intelligence and growth. So what exactly is a MAP test? A MAP test is a test that we have been taking for years now. You start all the way in elementary and you take it all the way throughout school, all the way up until junior year, I think is the last one I took. And these tests you get tested on math, science, and English. Each of them having around 40 to 45 questions, and each of them taking, depending on the student, 30 minutes to 2 hours or more, depending on how much time you need. MAP testing starts off easy with the questions and it gradually gets harder. So for students, it can be stressful and make them anxious, and honestly, they just don't want to take it. Sometimes we'll be in class, for example, and the day before you get told, hey, we're MAP testing tomorrow, and you just hear the whole room sigh. Nobody wants to take them because it has nothing to do with us. It just shows our growth, but if nobody cares about the test, then they aren't going to grow. They might go down in their scores. So the MAP testing is basically here to show the growth of the students, but ultimately to show if the teacher is helping them grow with their learning. So from National Education Association, written in 2023, standardized tests don't accurately measure students' learning and growth, meaning that these tests are being taken by every student in the school on one day, and the students show up and they start taking the test, and they might not be feeling well, or they just don't want to take it, and they start taking it and they're like, no, I don't want to do this, and they start guessing. It happens a lot, and you can see, like, you'll be taking it and you're like, okay, I feel like I'm doing good. I'm on the 20th question. We've been doing this for an hour. I feel like I'm doing good. And then you look over and everybody else has their heads down because they're dying because they guessed the whole way through. And this does not, like, the fact that people do that and they guess on most of the questions, they get through like half of it and they're like, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. And they start guessing. It doesn't show their actual, like, ability. It doesn't show their intelligence. And I think that's where a lot of this is going wrong. So my next quote from Fetter 2025, in a high-quality education, students conduct science experiments, research papers, read novels and analyze them. They make oral presentations, they evaluate and synthesize information from a variety of fields, and apply their learning to new and ill-defined situations. Standardized tests are poor tools for evaluating these important kinds of learning. So with that being said, the students, you are only tested on those 3 subjects. And say you're a student that's not good at math or reading or science. Maybe you're good at art or performing or welding or something like that. You're not going to do good on these standardized tests that are just multiple choice over stuff that you have no interest in. It really just doesn't show their intelligence. So my next point being excessive testing harms learning and motivation, meaning that these tests happen over and over again and you take them multiple times throughout the year. And on top of that, you also have your regular tests for your classes that you finish a chapter in math, you have to take a final test over that chapter. And you have those tests, then you have your final exams, your midterms. And then on top of that, throughout high school and middle school, you have your state Ohio air test that every school has to take at the end of the year. So why do you need 3 more tests to worry about? It just makes the students very stressed out and anxious. Not only does the testing hurt the students, it also stresses out the teachers because they're like, okay, well, I have to get them ready for their final and the final state test, but also I need to make sure they know what they're doing for these math tests, or else I'm gonna look bad. So with that being said, from FNA 2025, standardized tests often prioritize a limited set of subjects while neglecting other important areas. This can lead to a narrowed curriculum with teachers teaching to the test rather than providing a well-rounded education, meaning that the teachers will start teaching about the test more than what you're trying to learn in the class. So that just harms the learning abilities of the students, where they're trying to be prepared to move on to the next chapter, whether that's moving up to a high school level of school or college or a trade school or just a job in general. And then it also deteriorates their motivation if you just keep taking these tests over and over again, not just the math test, but all the regular tests that they have to take. They're like, oh, I don't want to take another test that's 2 hours long, and they just get demotivated. So what solutions are there? What can we do to help? So I believe that if we have fewer of these math tests, so instead of having 3, say you have 2, one at the beginning, one in the middle, I think it'll help to be like, okay, well, at least I don't have to take another one right before the finals week. And I also think that if they were shorter, say instead of 40 questions, you have 20 questions, the students would be like, okay, I can do that. I just took a test that's 40 questions long, I did perfectly fine. I can do a 20 question test. Not saying that you keep the difficulty down, raise that up a little bit so that way it's more college prepared. And then finally, I think that if they're meaningful to the students, it will have better outcomes for them. Meaning that if the students think these are important, they will do better with them. My last quote from Why Less Testing Leads to Better Learning Outcomes. Research suggests that reducing the frequency and emphasis on high-stake tests can lead to improved learning outcomes and enhanced students' well-being. Less testing allows for more instructional time, enabling teachers to engage students in meaningful learning experiences. So to conclude, I believe that math testing does not show the true abilities of students and their intelligence, and that if they were shorter and fewer of them and have more meaning to them, students would do better. So as I wrap up, together, if we stand by this, I think we can support assignments that lift the students up to prepare them for life and college rather than tear them down. Thank you.